Before we get started, this is Jack Murphy wrote a book, Democrat to Deplorable. Former Democrat, now on the Trump train, I guess is the fair way to say it.
Absolutely.
And you wrote a book about it. And if you would like to ask questions, hop in the super chat. We will take questions after the segments, and then we have a bunch of stuff we're going to talk about. And I think we're just going to go for it because Jack's got a really interesting guy. I've known you for a little while, and I think
It's been a couple of years now.
we've had a bunch of really interesting conversations. And the first and most important is your book, Democrat to Deplorable. Why not? Let me just show it. Why 9 million Obama voters ditched the Democrats and embraced Donald Trump. And you wrote that.
I did. I wrote it in over 2016 and 2017 and published in 2018. So it's been out for a couple of years now. And the main gist behind it is that this is a cultural phenomenon. It's not politics. It's not necessarily about tax cuts or anything like that. It's about culture. It's about reason and science. It's actually about order versus chaos. And people called Trump the chaos candidate, but that was actually a misnomer. He was the one that we actually were supporting to take us back to some semblance of order. I think a lot of people were starting to feel crazy when all these issues, the cultural issues that are hot buttons today, like radical feminism, intersectionality, all this hyper focus on race. When, I'm a Gen X guy, I was raised to not think about race.
Yeah.
And that's how I was, came up my whole life. But then starting in 2012, coming into 2015, all of a sudden everybody's talking about race all the time. And they're all pointing their finger at me. This is just white guy. Why are you pointing your finger at me? What did I do?
Yep.
I was an ally. I was here to help.
So I don't know. Yeah. What's in the book? And then we got a bunch of stuff I want to talk about, but
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the main thrust of the book is there's 3 sections to it. The first part is my story about how I came up in this sort of non-racial, don't see color, don't see gender. I was bused across town as part of like a desegregation scheme. So like
really?
Yeah. So
wait, wasn't that called busing? Wasn't that like a
thing?
thing?
Busing. Yeah. I was actually part of the busing in Indiana, I guess in the 80s. I was bused from the suburbs all the way into the city. And so
mix.
Yeah. To mix the races. Yeah. So I was part of like a very radical social experiment basically for my whole life. So whether I wanted it or not, I have kind of been thrust into this story since the very beginning. And
No.
Yeah,
go for it. I was going to,
Yeah. And so the first part of the book is just sort of laying the groundwork for somebody like myself. And I ended up working in charter schools. I ran charter schools, executive director of charter schools in Washington, D.C., with 99.99% African-American population, everybody under the poverty line. I was 100% dedicated to helping minority students in the city. Urban education, like what could be a more progressive cause than that? And I believe in it. I believe in education. But eventually my race and gender became a problem. Being a white man stood in my way of getting things done. I remember the very first day I got there, I started as a CFO. They gave me like a whole pamphlet on like how black people do business differently than white people and how I needed to change my way of doing business to accommodate this black culture that I was now part of.
How is it going to make things better?
Well, there's just a different way of doing things, apparently. And it started with those kind of conversations, which is, I can see a place for trying to figure out how to interact with people that may not be of your particular culture. But now, later on in my career, it got to the point where now everything is white supremacy. So like being on time is white supremacy. Reliance on data is white supremacy. Rationality and science and math. These are all now stated white supremacy ideas.
I got to do it. I got to jump in. I got to tell you a story.
Tell me.
I don't know if I told you this one. Did I ever tell you a story about when I went to North Dakota for the Dakota Access Pipeline stuff and the fight I got into? So I got it was a big story. I knew people who were there, so I decided to go check it out. A lot of those people like hate my guts. It's really weird. Like some good friends I had for years just like snapped, and now they've just think I don't know. It's weird. They've gone off the rails. But a friend and I went out there. We meet some people. They invite us out to lunch. We go to lunch. We get pizza. I've got to be in Los Angeles in like a week, and I'm in North Dakota in the winter in a Honda Civic. It was a great journey to say the least. Like I almost died several times. So I'm talking to we're at this table. Everyone's getting along. We all kind of agree. I'm there in like a journalistic capacity. I'm not here to say you're right or wrong. I'm just like, tell me your story, right? And so I told I told everybody, I wish I could stay, but I have to leave by tomorrow so I can make it to LA in 2 days. And the guy said, no, dude, that's colonial thinking, man. And I said, what do you mean that's colonial thinking? He goes, like schedules, like time, like you gotta be there at this time. The Native Americans don't have that. They do things when they need to get done. That's colonial. And I was like, what does colonial thinking mean? I don't understand what that word is supposed to represent. And he said, it was the white Europeans who brought schedules to the rest of the world. And I was like, oh, excuse me, dude, I'm part Korean. Okay. Like we have sense of time and scheduling. We knew how to farm and we knew when we had to do it.
Yeah.
Like we had time too. It wasn't given to us. And he goes, come on, let's be honest, man. We all know that it was the white people who brought that stuff to East Asia. And I was just like, excuse me, mother. I was like, I'm not going to sit. I got mad. I really got mad. I was legit mad. I'm like, I am sick and tired of white supremacists like you telling me that my culture was made by you when we did it 1,000 years before you did. Because he was the white guy telling me like my culture was built by him. And that's why, like, when I hear the stories like what you're telling me, I'm like, dude, that resonates. I grew up in Chicago. It was a mixed area. We all got along. None of this was ever an issue until I went to New York to occupy Wall Street. And all of a sudden I met these people who had segregated themselves. Like, did you not occupy Wall Street? They actually had voting block based on race. I kid you not. And I remember, this was really funny. I hated it. I was like, these people are nuts. I remember one day there was a black dude chilling on this planter ledge. And he was arguing, saying, y'all dudes are crazy. And I was like, what's up? What do you think? And he's like, do you have any idea what the press is going to say if they walk over here and see segregation in this park? And I started laughing. And I'm like, fist pump, dude. I get it.
Yeah. I mean, I remember I ended up working for the regulator for charter schools for finance. I was like the senior finance director. And I walk into a room, and on a whiteboard is their vision for the future of this organization, this government organization. And on the whiteboard, it says too many white people. So they weren't even hiding it. This is a government-run agency in the District of Columbia. And on the whiteboard in their brainstorming session about what the future of this agency should look like.
Segregation?
Just don't hire any more white people. Get rid of the white people and hire nothing but POC and people in the rainbow flag. And I absolutely have no problem with this. I've hired like over 100 African Americans and gay people and whatever, train them all. I don't care. I'm looking for performance, right? But they very specifically are all focused on what do you look like, what's between your legs, and not what's between your head. And this is basically the general thrust of the book, Democrat to Deplorable, right? Available on Amazon. It's a story about me, and then it's a story. I interviewed 1,500 people across the country.
Wow.
We did a national survey. Yeah. We interviewed people from all over. I got in my car and just drove all over the East Coast, went through Pennsylvania, backwaters of Pennsylvania, backcountry rather. It's the stories of those people. And then I tie it all together with the biggest issues. The biggest issues being globalism, being the China's ascension into the WTO, what that did to manufacturing base, radical feminism, intersectionality, what's going on in college campuses, about how when you walk in the door on the very first day in orientation, they're like, introduce yourself by your gender. Yep. And here's how this is rape culture. And here's how, if you are an accuser, you'll never have to participate in any sort of hearing against, for rape or whatever. And men don't have any rights, et cetera, et cetera. So I tie it all together. And then basically the big finish is talking about how the media, the academics, the marketing, the technology, the deep state, everybody has swallowed this same pill, and it's called the blue church. And I didn't coin that phrase. That's Jordan Hall's phrase, blue church. But basically the blue church has come to dominate everything, and we can see it, and we can see it today. And so now people that vote for Trump, this is an insurgency. It's the red insurgents. We are an emergent network that has taken over the Republican Party. Mm-hmm. And it's much in the same way that Bernie's people are trying to take over the Democratic Party. And you can see parallels in both the Republican establishment and the Democratic establishment in trying to repel these invaders, right? Yeah. We basically, the Trump phenomenon took over the GOP. Yep. He was, we were talking about this earlier. He's basically a New York Democrat, right? Mm-hmm. And he took over the Republican Party because it was the easiest way for him to get his agenda done.
Democrats would never elect a billionaire. I don't think so, at least.
No. I don't know.
I don't think they would.
I don't know. I don't even know what a Democrat is anymore. So I agree. It's so foreign to me.
Yeah. So, but I bring up this point all the time. If I said to you, Democrat, what do you think? Do you think a socialist like AOC or Bernie Sanders? Do you think a Joe Biden warmonger corporate, Goldman Sachs, Hillary Clinton.
I mean, today I think a single 35-year-old white woman who can't get a date and is upset and miserable and drinks too much wine and has cats. That's what I think of, and then cries about racism all day, everywhere, misogyny all day, everywhere. And how there's no good men left. That's what I think of when I think of Democrats.
I think there were some points in there that were a bit hyperbolic,
Yes,
but you're not actually wrong. Pew Research did a survey. 68% of millennial women are Democrats.
Yeah.
And I think it's something like 43% are men, meaning there's a large portion of millennial Democratic females who are single.
Yeah. Yeah, and millennial men are turning towards the Republican Party. And so this is the last theme I haven't talked about in the book is just this attack on masculinity, basically. Yeah. And so the Democrats are basically the anti-masculinity, feminize the culture, de-risk the culture party. And the Republicans are now the party of masculine power and masculine energy.
So here's what freaks me out. I was a big fan of Bernie in 2015 and 16, but his tune has changed. Have you seen the interviews from him back in 2015? Have you seen the news stories?
No.
You know a lot of his talking points overlapped with Trump.
Oh, well, yeah, some of the economic populist stuff definitely.
Absolutely.
Overlap. Yeah.
And there were so many articles being like Trump and Bernie are so similar, and that was actually a threat to Bernie because Trump is this boorish, bombastic, arrogant dude.
Right.
A lot of people love it.
Right.
But Bernie was the career politician who represented some similar things. Today, Bernie's talking points are flipping like within the month.
Right. Well, this brings up a good question. A decent chunk of the 9 million Democrats that voted for
9.4.
9.4 voted for Trump. A decent chunk of them were like burned Bernie Sanders supporters, right? So right. I chronicled one lady who was a Bernie supporter delegate a Bernie delegate in Nevada in the caucuses, and then saw how Hillary stole Nevada from Bernie, and then went to Philadelphia and then saw how they treated all the Bernie delegates and the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And so she was like, F this, I'm not going to be a part of this. And she went full Trump, and now her whole life has changed. She's like been introduced to new cultural ideas and new norms and new ways of living
nicer
her life.
People.
And that's the first thing she said in my interview, actually. Yeah. I couldn't believe how nice everybody was. Right?
Do you know I think it's an Andrew Breitbart quote about walking towards the fire?
No, but that's a good place to go if you want to be in journalism.
I'm not sure if it's from him, and I'm probably getting the phrase it wrong, but it's something like, people are default liberal and they're standing behind this wall of fire and they're scared of it. But once you walk through it, you realize on the other side is freedom. And yes. I'm probably ruining it.
Yes.
But
that's absolutely right. So to follow up on that last point, though, is like, are those Bernie people who felt, disenfranchised from the Democratic Party in 2016, will they, if Bernie is the nominee, will they return to vote Democrat in 2020? I think some of them definitely will, but I think some of them are definitely going to stick with Trump.
Yep.
And if Bernie I
know that for a fact, actually.
is for real the nominee, then I think that they'll lose a lot of the moderate people, who just are like socialists. I don't want anything to do with that.
I was in Anaheim, and there was a Trump rally. These 3 guys, 2 young guys and an older guy, got jumped. They got chased by a bunch of Antifa types, stealing their hats, spitting on them, punching them as they ran away. I interviewed the guy afterwards, and he said they were Bernie supporters, all 3 of them, the 2 young guys and the older guy. And he said they were supporting Bernie because he was a politician. They felt he had the experience in government to get the job done, but he was about trade. He wanted to, Trump. Bernie was talking about TPP being bad, about NAFTA being bad. He was talking about workers. He said open borders is a Koch brothers proposal. It's bad for the workers in America. They supported that.
Right. That was back then.
Then when the nomination was stolen, they said Trump was the only option for them because he was the only one talking about how these policies hurt them.
Yeah.
And they got attacked by these people because now they supported Trump.
Right.
But let me tell you something. You know what really scares me? Bernie was talking about these things in 2015. Today, he's fully on board with the intersectional woke AOC. I don't think you guys listening or watching, and I don't know if you know this. Have you ever been to Berkeley?
California?
Yeah.
No.
You go to Berkeley. Walk down the main, avenue just outside of the university, and you'll see inside every window is like the feminist revolution fist on a poster.
Yeah.
Every business down several blocks is a sign saying, we support these causes and we hate Trump. And I went to a bar and they had a poster that said, Trump is, and they called him a disparaging term. I was sitting there eating food, minding my own business. Bartender seemed very nice, lovely lady. And I asked her, I was like, what's the sign mean? Because it's a different language. And she was like, oh, it's, we're insulting Trump. And I was like, do you not like him? Do you hate him? And she was like, I don't know, I don't really care. And I was like, then why do you have the sign in your window? because if we don't, they'll smash it. In Oakland, there was a Burger King, and I saw this in like 2014 with a sign in the window saying, please do not smash our windows. We are a family-owned franchise, not a corporate store. That's the future that awaits you when these people gain more ground and become more powerful. And people don't know this. They see these terrible movies and the insults and cancel culture and think, oh, well, it's no big deal. But they don't realize that if these people truly got what they wanted, you would not be able to go outside unless you put flags on your house saying, yes, please, we support whatever you say. Please don't hurt us. It's very, very much so like what they kind of did in World War II in a certain country. I don't want to say it because I don't want to play that game. I don't want to draw that parallel.
No.
But you look at the photos from Hamburg, Germany during the G20 a couple of years ago.
Oh, yeah.
And there is a row of storefronts all smashed, save one. Do you know why the one store right in the middle wasn't smashed up?
Tell me.
They had a revolution fist in the window.
There you go.
And so the Antifa lunatics spared their store because they bent the knee.
Well, Tim, I have very personal experience with Antifa, right? So as I'm working for these charter schools, as I'm working for the regulator, I, like you, I write and cover various issues, and I went to an Antifa protest, Antifa versus the alt-right, Richard Spencer and all those guys, Jason Kessler, they were all down at the White House. So I went down there just to check it out. I stand in the middle to take pictures, right? So I'm in a picture with Jason Kessler, just happenstance.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Then I get into a picture. I'm in a picture with Jack Posobiec and Chelsea Manning. Okay. All right.
Yep.
So they see me in this picture with Chelsea Manning and Jack Posobiec, and they're like, who is this guy? He must be alt-right. So they try to identify me. They find me. They find this picture with me and Jason Kessler. Then they take that picture and send it to my work, and they say, hey, this guy's a Nazi. Look at him. He's with Jason Kessler. This is a Charlottesville guy. He is a Nazi. You should fire him. And within 12 hours, I was suspended, and then 2 months later, I was totally fired.
Yep.
So Antifa has come for me. They've stolen away my career, my reputation. They doxed me. It got me fired from, banned from coaching Little League. Okay, It went all the way through to them trying to destroy my entire life. They even somehow were getting in touch with my landlord, trying to get me evicted. Okay, all the way down. This is Antifa trying to go after me just because I happened to be in a picture.
Yep.
With somebody who they thought was a bad guy, while the whole time I'm actually one of the few people in Washington, D.C. that's ever turned around a school deep in the urban inner city and helped African-American students get better educations. And it's all quantified, and you can research it and see it. It's all right there. It's real data.
They don't care, though.
They don't care.
It's about the tribe. It's about the ideology. There's no rules.
Yeah.
There's loose rules. But the one important rule is don't cross us.
Right.
So it's a chaotic and destructive force with no mission. And so when I look at what look, man, I don't think that I've never been a person who feels like the solution is voting for the other party who's not as bad. I just don't like it. So I don't want to do it. Right.
Yeah.
But I look at the Democrats today. They're accusing each other of cheating. Iowa caucus was a disaster. Mayor Cheat was trending on Twitter.
I saw that. I like that a lot, actually.
They booed him. You can actually turn the mic like that.
Yeah, I got it.
Oh, okay, right on.
Yeah.
They booed him in New Hampshire. They're in chaos. And actually, I think we can talk about what happened with Pelosi because that's resulted in a lot more Democrats saying they were done. This was the last straw for them. I can't believe it. One of the biggest complaints that many people have had, which I've certainly brought up, is Trump does not represent the office well in terms of when I think of the president as this honorable, and they haven't always been. I understand that. It's not the biggest issue to me.
But have they ever actually? If you think back JFK, oral sex, making his secretaries give.
No, I get it.
Right, and LBJ, and think about farther and farther back. I think it's just a myth. Actually.
Right? No, I don't disagree. So that's why it's not the biggest issue for me.
Yeah.
But the reason I bring it up is, then you get Joe Biden called the dude fat. Called the dude a liar, right. Tells people go vote for somebody else. Right. He's certainly not doing anything special. Elizabeth Warren just called Mike Pence a dog. And Pelosi stands up and shreds his speech. Oh. And they want to tell me, oh, but Trump is the bad guy. And I'm like, you're all the same, dude. Yeah. Look, I get it, man. He's got a bad attitude, but the media gives him a way worse rap than he really has. Yeah. I'm ambivalent. I'm like, I wouldn't pick him myself. So, for me, my attitude is I'm one of the people who desperately tried to say, give me a reason to stick with the Democratic Party. Yeah. Absolutely not. I think after Iowa, I just said, I am done. They changed the rules so that Bloomberg has an easier chance of getting on the debate stage.
I couldn't believe that. That is such a crock.
That to me was like
There's nothing even subtle about that.
I know.
It's so overt. Money. He has money and power, and we want to use his money and power. He's on the stage.
He gave them over $1 million. He gave Democratic aligned group like 700 something and the DNC like 300. And there it was. Tulsi, Yang, the people I was interested in were, and they've already had the media coming after them. You know what I mean? Tulsi's been smeared relentlessly. And I was like, if I can't even support somebody so they can be on the debate stage, knowing they're not going to win, I'm not playing. I'm done. I'm walking away. It doesn't mean I'm going to go to the other side of the aisle and go talk to, I have no, but here's the thing.
Water's warm over here. Plus, it's really nice once you walk through the fire, Tim. Promise.
Well, I know I've been through the fire. You know what I mean? I think a great example of being through the fire is the fact that I can sit here and say, like, I don't like him, I don't want to vote for him, and you're not hitting me over the head with a club.
Nope.
Like or what would happen if you went in front of Antifa and said you were considering voting for Trump?
Right.
They'd scream in your face, they'd hit you. It's the worst possible things. And even outside of like the crazy Antifa types, you'll get like zealot people who are going to be like, are you a fascist? And get your face.
It's my own family, Tim. It's like this is when I started to discover things were really messed up. In 2014 or so, I was very active on Facebook, and not even like as a social media person, just like my family and friends. And I would post articles that just questioned the general narratives that were ongoing and just ask questions. And before even the 2016 election, like I had alienated half my family. I'm completely alienated from my entire Democratic Irish Catholic family. Some of them won't even talk to me anymore because I just started challenging their notions. And then when, whole hog and went for it because I saw where we needed to go. But like, it's not just the crazy Antifa types. It's filtering down through every human interaction that we have, who your friends are, who your mate is going to be, dating, your love life, what it's like for your kids to be at school if parents know that you're a Trump supporter and they're there with your kids in the same classroom. My little daughter, my 6-year-old daughter at the time, she took some of my swag, my Democrat to Deplorable swag. I didn't know this. Took it into school for show and tell. Okay. And we live in Washington, D.C., okay, which is like the bluest place in the whole country. And she brings it in and they're like, my daddy wrote a book, Democrats are Deplorable. And she was so proud. And one of the kids was like, what's a deplorable? And they had to like shut the whole thing down. And I felt really bad for her because she didn't know. She was just being proud. But it's everywhere. It's in all of your social relationships, dating markets. It's everywhere.
We went to a game shop. I play Magic the Gathering. It's a card game.
I can see it.
We got a whole bunch. I'm so excited. We're getting it set up so we can actually play like some nice fun games, maybe film them. But this shop had a sign in the window that said, "This is a safe space." It did not feel like a safe space because as much as I understand what they're trying to accomplish with that phrase, it's associated with this very violent ideology. And I've seen the physical ramifications of those who dare oppose it.
Oh my God, dude. I walk my dog around my neighborhood and every other house on my street has a Black Lives Matter sign or another sign that says like, everyone is welcome here. And it lists all of the people who are welcome, but like straight white cis, I'm saying cis as mocking in a way. It doesn't say straight white cis dudes is nowhere on the list.
Right. You're not welcome.
Not welcome.
But it's like, the crazy thing about it is you can literally just say you're anything. It doesn't even make sense.
But they wouldn't believe me because they can read my mind, Tim. And that's what it is. It's all about them being able to read my mind.
And that's like impeachment.
Right.
Like they didn't ask a single question about Trump's motivation with the call for Ukraine. They just asserted it.
Right. And
now the media reports it like it's true. We'll save the media stuff. I want to stick to this.
Yeah.
There was a segment I did a couple days ago. Nancy Pelosi stands up, shreds Trump's speech. Actually, I don't know if you caught this. She ripped it a little bit first.
Yeah.
Did you notice that?
I did. She had too many pages in there. Her weak arms couldn't do it.
Well, no. Before he finished his speech, she pulls him down and she rips him a little bit and puts him back.
Oh, so she could just make an easy rip for a show.
I think she was testing to see if she could rip it because maybe it was a stronger, like maybe a plastic, kind of piece of paper or something.
Fancy White House paper.
Fancy White House paper.
Yeah.
And so she claims that because the speech was full of lies, Trump didn't finish the speech before she prepared to actually rip it, and you can see it. But anyway, she rips it up. And I was shocked. Like I'm sitting right over here and we're playing the speech and we're cracking jokes. I said to Adam, who normally hosts the show, everything Trump says is so amazing. His speech was like magical. There were a few things we as like left-leaning Democrat voters were like, oh, I don't know about that one. But my buddy Adam's like, I don't understand why they're not clapping for, Trump said 70% of women got the jobs from the big job boom.
Right. Not a lie.
They're not standing up for it. And I said, Adam, you got to realize that Trump is telling you all of the best stuff. He's not going to criticize himself.
Right.
And so at that point, there was an opening for me and my buddy, who have always been very left-leaning kind of dudes. Like, we're skateboarding, just kind of city, urban, hippie kind of people. And then when it ended, Pelosi stood up and ripped, and we both were just like, what did she just do? The narrative changed in a second.
Yeah.
No longer were we even considering what Trump said.
Well, do you think that was deliberate? Do you think that she was smart enough to steal the news cycle with that?
I've heard a lot of people say it. No, she made a serious mistake.
Yeah. I think the Democrats did in general. We're watching this with my kids, right? And every time Trump says something good and the Democrats don't stand up, my son goes, I hate women. And then something else happened. He goes, I hate black people. And something else, I hate Latino. Like,
those are all going to get cut out of context, by the way.
But this is him making fun of the Democrats sitting down.
Right.
Whenever Trump is like, black low unemployment is
they
all-time
don't care
lows. Minority unemployment, all-time lows. Women are getting hired at all rate. All this wonderful stuff that you would think that they would be totally championing. They just sat there and looked disgusting.
Because they hate Trump. That's their policy issue.
Yeah.
It's not about if Trump's accomplishing anything. They just don't like the guy. Kirsten Sinema stood up for a lot.
I did.
But then she voted for impeachment.
Yeah.
So anyway, I bring this up because in the wake of this, a bunch of people called into C-SPAN, and it was shocking. I mean, when I did the segment on it, I read the transcripts, but if you really got to listen to these people. One old dude, he's like, I've been a Democrat for 77 years. I am done. What she did was an embarrassment to all of us. This is the president of the United States. And I felt like a lot of these people were saying, what they were saying resonated so much with me. Because I always say, you don't have to like Trump, but you do have to be an adult. And being an adult means sometimes the guy you don't like wins.
Yeah.
That means I'll go vote in the next election because it's a back and forth. Bush won, Obama won, Clinton, Reagan, I go so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But we're at a point now where since 2016, they won't stop. It's ridiculous scandals. It's fake news. It's smears. It's the most insane trash.
Yeah. So like 9 million people voted for Obama or for Trump that had voted for Obama. I think that number, that Democrat to deplorable number, is going to increase. Only increase. There's not. Once you go to this side, you're also not coming back either. I don't think. Like, nobody who decided and stood up and proudly voted for Trump after they had been with Obama is not going to all of a sudden be like, oh, it's time for me to go back to to Mayor Pete.
Right.
And I really think that this 9 million number is going to continue to grow. And you're seeing it now. Like Jeffrey Miller, evil psych professor, a very kind of famous guy, he put out a tweet the other day saying just this very thing, like, they're finally losing me, the Democrats.
Yep.
And it blew up. I mean, like thousands and thousands of retweets, and people are all chiming in. They're all saying the same thing. Now, all these people in this thread are all saying the same thing, that Democrats have completely lost me. And it's because
they lost me.
But they've been,
and I'm so desperate. You can see it in my face. I'm like, I won't vote for Trump. And it's like,
but the Democrats, it's not the same party, obviously, that it was even 10 or 15 years ago. And it's about these new networks that are emerging and taking over the party. And like AOC is one of them. And it's just this, they're finding a way to find their power, and it's through the Democratic Party,
right?
And just the same way Trump did through the Republicans. But there's absolutely no way I can be a part of a caucus that has at its core people whose main philosophy is that straight white guys ruin the world and we need to get rid of them. Like, I can't. How can I get in that?
But you don't even need to say it like that.
Yeah.
I can't get behind a party that has racism at its core.
Right. Well,
but let me explain, because I'm not talking about white people. No. I'm talking about my family. And this is, a lot of people got mad at me. Like, not like really mad, like, down with Tim, but they were like, Tim, when you get mad because they're targeting Asians, like, how do you feel? How do you think the white people feel when they target white people? And I agree. I understand and respect that. I'm mostly white. I come from a mixed family. Everybody knows it. It's like a meme. but I mean this seriously. When they did that lawsuit with Harvard about Asians, I'm like, you realize when they say Asian, they're talking about India. They're talking about certain parts of the Middle East. They're talking about Southeast Asia, South Asia, East Asia. You cannot compare someone from Thailand to a wealthy Chinese immigrant. But that's what they're doing. And so what I say to people is, if you really want to understand the racism at the core of this ideology, I want you to go find a 13-year-old American Asian child who was born here, who grew up here, look them in the eyes and say, you aren't allowed to go to an Ivy League college because you look too much like those people. That's what you're saying.
Yeah. Well, what Asians are now going to be white adjacent.
They already are.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is.
I know. I love that phrase, and it's going to keep. I love it because
White
it's so
adjacent.
terrible and disgusting and whatever. But like, in some respects, we should be accelerationist on that particular element, because the crazier it gets, the more quickly or the faster it does. I think the sooner it could be resolved. Right. I'm hoping.
I just don't think. I don't think it matters. The snowball's rolling down the hill. It's getting bigger and bigger.
It really
you couldn't
is.
stop it if you wanted to.
Well, intersectionality has at its core like a shrinking factor. Right. So it just keeps identifying all these cross sections of oppression and this and that. And before you know it, there's going to be one person standing in the middle saying, all of you people are against me. And maybe all of us on the outside finally can be like, this is pretty dumb.
I think that's going to happen in November.
You think so?
You know, I'm actually kind of worried, though, because we just saw that guy plow that vehicle through the Republican tent.
Yeah, it's going to be a hot summer, Tim.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be a hot
and it's not
summer.
going to be because of Trump. It's going to be when they rob Bernie Sanders. Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. We do the show every Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., sometimes an hour or two. And we do have a full live recorded version of the show that includes a lot of comments and smaller segments you probably don't see. If you want to check that out, you can watch live at 8 p.m. Monday through Friday, or become a member of this channel. And for $5 a month, you get full access to all of the recorded podcasts. Every day after the show, we make them available in the community section of this YouTube channel. So don't forget to subscribe and stick around for more segments and more shows Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Thanks for hanging out, and we will see you all in the next show.